We are joined here with Andy Tattersall. We're very excited to have him. He's an information specialist at the School of Health and Related Research, or SHAR, joining us all the way over from Sheffield University in the UK. Okay, Andy, are you ready to begin?
Yes, all ready. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Brilliant. So the cable's running fine from the UK to the US. That's good. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks.
Sure, and I know we're keeping you up late, so we appreciate it.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. It's only 7 o'clock here in the UK. So thanks for the introduction, Kathleen. So the purpose of this talk is I'm going to be throwing a lot of content at you. I've got to be honest here from the start. Over the course of the next 50 minutes, there's a lot to kind of put in, but it's to get you to think about sort of like some of the pitfalls and planning ahead and strategizing a social media approach to disseminating research and knowledge. Also to think about making social media content more eye-catching, because I think that is increasingly important as you're trying to stand out from other communications, other platforms that are out there. You only have so long to capture someone's attention and to hold on to it. So we're going to look at a few tools which I'm going to mention, which I implore you to go and look at the right time and to explore. And a lot of what I do, a lot of the workshops that I do and the training courses I do, are trying to demystify a lot of the technology hurdles. A lot of people say, well, I'm not really into social media, and I'm not really into technology. And actually a lot of these tools, they're no harder than using something like PowerPoint or just using something like Word. There's a little learning curve with some of them, but I'm going to kind of explain some of the tips and tricks that we will use to go along. So the thing to remember is there's a myriad of choices out there. There's a lots of different things that you can use, and with the communities that you work with, they may all have different accessibility issues. They may have different platforms, there may be different inequalities, etc. So you have to think about that when you're talking about your audience. So for an example, I had a colleague from the university approach me about writing a blog for speech language therapy, and I said, well, that's the wrong platform. The platform for you is something like YouTube, because the actual thing that you're trying to get across is the spoken word, and it's a visual thing. You want to show what you're doing with your mouth. A blog does not capture that. A journal article struggles to capture that. So it's thinking about what is the right thing for you to use. So choose wisely, and also don't try and spread yourself thin. If you're an independent researcher, if you're a librarian, if you're someone who's involved in knowledge exchange, and your role is to help a project or a program or an organization disseminate their work, you can easily get bogged down by trying to spread yourself across so many platforms. And it's very, very easily done. And what you end up with is a feeling of dissatisfaction, that you're not really making impact anywhere. It's like fighting a war on several fronts. You sometimes need to attack on one or two fronts and push and focus there, and that's where you'll get the actual kind of impact. So what I always say to people, and because I work in health research, I try and think about how perhaps a doctor would prescribe a intervention or would prescribe a medicine. And the same is said with a digital tool. When you're thinking about using it, you've got to understand why you're going to use it. Why am I going to use Twitter? Why am I going to use YouTube? Why am I going to write a blog? So you have to then understand what the benefits are. You have to have that kind of cost benefit sort of process going on. What is my investment of time here? What do I hope to get out of it? You've got to understand that any technology can have side effects. You know, I work in information science as well, and we have lots of problems around information overload, around attention deficit, partial attention. So there's lots of issues that if we suddenly start using lots of different platforms, which unfortunately I have to do, but it's part of my job, but I've found ways to manage it with some success. But if you're suddenly trying to take on new social media platforms, new technologies, there may be side effects. Those side effects may be that it starts to actually stop you getting your work done. You have actual work you've got to do, this sometimes feels like it's an additional thing. It isn't. It should be part of the process for most people involved in some kind of knowledge exchange, involved in research. You need to understand the benefits can take time in coming. So the amount of colleagues or PhD students or clinicians, people I've come across who instantly expect to have some success the minute they go on social media. Now, certain people with a lot of esteem, already with a highly built and established career, they will start to see benefits very quickly. If you're not in that fortunate position, then it will take time. If you're trying to promote a program or a project or anything like that, it will take time in coming along. So you have to think about it. I'm an advocate of social media. I appreciate it isn't perfect. It's far from perfect, as we know, but I do believe that the positives outweigh the negatives, and particularly in terms of trying to get accurate, proper information that will reach members of the public, reach patients, reach experts and professionals. So I can wax lyrical about how good something like Twitter is, or something like making infographics. But the issue again here is everybody's busy. You've taken time out today and this week for this conference to suddenly find yourself back at the workplace and trying to deal with your emails and everything else that's going on, particularly in the current climate. It can be a distraction, and today might not be the day that you start using the platform. Whatever you do, don't feel pressured to use a new platform, because if you suddenly go, right, today I'm going to starting to write a blog or write a lay summary or something like that, and you're feeling pressure to do it, it won't work as easy. I think you have to start to accept and allow. If it's forced, it won't work as well. So this is, I used to have an allotment. I don't know, I imagine in the US you will have the equivalent thing. I don't think it's called an allotment, I don't know. But I had an allotment, which was a patch of land that had other patches of land like this, and we all would grow veg. This was away from our home. I had this for a few years. That's a picture of it as it was kind of in process. Having any kind of a platform, any kind of communications process, particularly using social media, requires you to kind of go through a cycle of growing and weeding and nurturing. So anyone who's ever grown any flowers or any vegetables, you know you can't just plant in the ground and just leave it. You know that things will be needed. You'll need compost, you'll need fertilizer, you'll need it's not a particularly good metaphor, but you'll need manure, but you will need things that will feed the seeds and will get them growing. You need warmth, you need rain as well, obviously. But what you also need to do is weed out things, keep nurturing, keep growing. So if you start with a social media process, if you start to use these platforms, if you suddenly do it for a week and don't do it for a month, what you've done in that first week will wilt and die. And what you're trying to do is trying to just keep things ticking over. You don't have to do loads. It's very much kind of as needs fit with the area of work that you're in. What I would say to people is seek out allies and connect with them. People on social media, invariably in our areas of work, within health, within research, within knowledge exchange, they're invariably looking for allies themselves. That's the whole point. You've gone out to create a social network. So don't feel afraid to approach and connect with any of these kind of groups here. Don't feel shy. I've connected with people who are far more senior than me, far more have greater esteem than me, and we've had conversations, we've met in person. It does give you that extra 10-20% in terms of building that network up, and it is very, very useful. And even though you may connect with someone and not speak to them today, in a year's time they may have slowly acknowledged all the work you're doing and start to kind of connect. Don't just follow people because it feels like a nice thing to do. So I give talks to, say, PhD students. I'll go to different universities and I'll always get 3-4 students who'll follow me back. Unless they're interested in scholarly communications, unless they're interested in web science or anything that I'm interested in, I won't follow back because it will just clutter my information feed. You'd be nice about it, but I think that just following people because it feels like a nice thing to do will in effect just kind of weaken your stream of information that you're getting through. Here's a good example of where things can go after a while. So this is Jonathan Ashworth. He is the Shadow Health and Social Care Secretary for the Labour Party, which is the opposition party in the UK. A colleague of mine, Andrew Lee, was on Newsnight, which is an evening time news programme on the BBC, talking about COVID. He's a public health expert in the area of pandemics and epidemics. And obviously, Jonathan was watching, or certainly was prompted, and started to follow Andrew, and also started to follow our SHAR Twitter account, which is one that I set up years ago and have recently taken back on and have been using. So Jonathan is now aware of us. He follows 2,300 people, which is a lot, but we've actually registered with him. Now, if there's an election in the next couple of years, which will be, Labour may be in power, and Jonathan may be the Health and Social Care Secretary. So it's important that we appear on the eye lines of these people, and this is an indication where this can happen over time. It's also thinking about timing. Obviously, there's a great time difference between me and you in the US, and it's thinking about, obviously, in the United States, you have your own time zones, and it's thinking about when you actually make your communications and thinking, who are you trying to reach? Where are they located? Are they going to see this tweet? It's very easy to start posting tweets when you've got home, you've had tea, you start to think about, oh, I should have done this before I left the office. I'll just put this tweet out. It's whether it'll get picked up. It's very easy to do that. And it's thinking about when is a good time to tweet. Is a good time to tweet it? Well, prior to the pandemic, probably a good time to tweet would have been between the hours of, say, 8 and 10 in the morning, when an awful lot of people will have been having breakfast, commuting, traveling to work, which is a primary time when they're going to check their phones, look at social media, because it's just so accessible on your phone. And then when they get into the office and they start to do work. If you start tweeting at certain times, then people are less likely to see it. If we're trying to tweet from Sheffield regarding some research which is of interest to people in, say, India, we wouldn't be tweeting it at 9 o'clock at night. So we would have to think about these things. Tools like TweetDeck is particularly useful. For those who have not used it, it's owned by Twitter. It's free. It allows you to kind of create this dashboard of different streams where you can put in search keywords. Anyone who obviously is used to searching any kind of a database, it will allow you to put in keywords, which will then populate any tweets relating to those. But another useful thing is it allows you to tweet across multiple accounts. So if you've got a personal account, a project, an organizational account, you can then start to tweet repeatedly across these accounts rather than having to move from one login to another or trying to do it on your phone. You can also schedule your tweets, which is really useful, especially if you're planning ahead. You've got a week long of events and you want to get all the tweets out, and especially if you're someone who's been given that task to do that and you think, well, I'm going to struggle to remember this every day. You can do it in advance. Now, there's a few things to remember. Make sure everything that you tweet in advance is right and correct. Think about the timing. In the US, like the UK, we have moments of silence. So you wouldn't tweet at a particular time when we know we're taking a minute's silence, which we do a couple of times in the UK. You also wouldn't put out tweets that can possibly change over the course of the next few weeks, because you've then got to remember to change it and tweets can go out and they're incorrect. Look to plan ahead. Look at things like international days, health awareness days. There's lots of these calendars out there, things that will be connected to your areas of work and operations, and try and plan ahead. And I can't express this enough. Don't think next week is this disability awareness week next week. Let's do something now. You need to have done something a few weeks in advance at least. And look what the hashtags are for those events. Look at what the charities may be using, what the organizations may be using, and then plan ahead. Think about creating content in advance. Lists are very important in Twitter. Can't express that lists are really useful. They're easy to set up. There's loads of tutorials on how to create lists. Lists are very good if you want to have a personal and a professional account in one place, because you can just add personal accounts to Twitter without following them. So you can create them into your own personal list, make it private. That saves you having 2 accounts if you don't want that. If you work in an organization and you know there's 10, 15 people who are tweeting about the work that you're doing, if you add them to a list, then every time you open up the list, you'll see all of their tweets, which then allows you to retweet them through. So it's quite an easy process. It's a bit like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. You've basically got everything automated and running through smoothly. Tools like If This Then That, which I say I can't go into too deep because we've not got much time. But if you go and look at tools like If This Then That, you can set up things like connect email to digest your Twitter, which will then start to pick out useful kind of tweets for you. There are other tools out like there. There's tools like Nuzzle and other tools like that. But invariably, they've moved to a lot more of a premium account. It depends whether you have any funding to actually use any of these kind of aggregation tools. So here, some of the things you can do with If This Then That: get an email digest of tweets from a specific area. You can create a search on Twitter and get a daily email with the results. And if there's a user on Twitter that's tweeting, then you can get a daily email of their tweets. Of course, that creates a lot more information, a lot of stuff coming in that you have to deal with. What I always say is don't get hung up about it. If you don't read them, you don't read them. Don't feel compelled. But if you're finding that there's some useful content coming out that's generating your own social media content, creating your own knowledge and improving on that, then these are potentially useful tools for you in your work. So with Twitter, think about scheduling tweets. If you're using Twitter for any kind of organizational account, any kind of project, don't use a personal account to own it. If there's any way you're in your organization, you can set up what we would call in Sheffield a Z-Roll account. That's an account that is not a person, but it's just a generic email account. Then try and set those up, because we have countless problems in Sheffield, no doubt, and I'm sure in any organization, where people set up accounts using their own email address, they leave, and then we can't get access to that account. I've had to intervene with a few things where I've found that this has been the case, and you can spend a few hours actually trying to go down rabbit holes to find out what is happening and how you take hold of the account. Use visible tweets where possible. I'll talk about those coming up. Always link to your other social media. Look at notifications, but don't have notifications turned on. Don't have things that will distract you. So don't have them on your phone. It's good practice to turn them off. It is a distraction. It causes you to have to suddenly look away from what you're doing. And it's another side effect of social media. My phone, for the most of the last 8 months while I've been working at home, invariably sits in a different room, because if I had it on my desk, it'd be pinging away every hour. If something's important, then tweet it more than once. People worry. They put out a report. You put out an event, and you think, right, I don't want to disrupt anyone else. I don't want to kind of interrupt anybody. If it's a really important piece of work, if it's a really important message, then think about tweeting it once that week, the next week, a couple of weeks after. If it's good, I retweet occasional things that I've written 4 or 5 years ago, which I still think are applicable. Use hashtags sparingly. Don't fill your tweets with hashtags. It can be very clunky, very hard to see. Promote your own Twitter handle, and don't use Twitter automation tools to generate things like daily tweets where you show how many people are following you or how many people have unfollowed you and how many retweets you've had. I don't think people are particularly interested in seeing those things in a Twitter stream. Same with Facebook, really. If you have a page, make sure you have a page, not a group. It's easier to orchestrate and to run. Again, don't use a personal account to own it. You have to generate a fictional one. That's what I've done with the Shah Facebook account. I've taken that over recently because that had been sort of left to its own devices with other people, and I've now taken it over. I've created a fictional account which is tied to a university email address, which means if I leave Sheffield, we still have it. Other people know about this now. And again, the same applies what is on there, what I've said with regards to Twitter. It's important to think about reputation. One of the talks that happened, that took place, I think, on Wednesday, talked about trolls and talked about the issues you may face with trolls. And I think that, as the talk said, this is a problem in in social media. We know this. We know it's a problem in particular fields. If you're working in things like feminism studies, if you're working in politics, particular areas like that, climate change, we know it attracts unsightly comments and not particularly nice people. But it is incredibly rare within our areas of work, really. It is very, very rare. I think if you go looking for trouble, you will invariably find it. But invariably, the circles we operate in are quite civil and quite professional. This is a story just to show what can happen. This is a footballer in the UK who became a boxer, who received quite a lot of abuse from a troll. And he decided to take things into his own hands and actually posted a tweet asking for this person's address in exchange for £1,000. He got a street name within a week. He drove to this person's house, tweeting pictures of his journey to show that he was on his way. This other person started to back down and realized he'd kind of gone too far. So what we found from that story was that Curtis Woodhouse didn't realize he could block that person. And that is often the best way to deal with that. But I will talk a little bit more about reputation management. We often see this on social media accounts. Opinions expressed are solely my own and do not express the opinions of my employer. It's not a legal defense. It's not going to stop you getting into trouble. It doesn't give you license to say whatever you want to say on social media, even though people may do that. And I always say that it's unlikely that certain things you may say are going to get you lose you your job, but they may eventually lose you your contract, or at least get you into the bad books. So it's important to remember that even though we have free speech, we live in two countries where we have a better degree of free speech than many countries. I cannot say something particularly detrimental about my university, even though I'm not tied to my university on my Twitter profile. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to use that platform to say that, because if any of my senior colleagues saw that, that may put me in trouble. Now, I don't actually have those opinions. I just want to put out there, I don't actually have those kind of opinions, but it's very easy for people to slip into this. And there's been countless stories of professors in the UK, the US, elsewhere, who've lost tenure because of things they've done on social media. So this is being recorded, so you'll be able to digest this more, but it's thinking about when you do receive criticism of work, it's asking the questions. Is it unfounded criticism? Is it founded criticism? Have you shared, for example, you may want to share a piece of funded peer-reviewed research you've carried out by your organization. Someone may criticize that publicly. So in such circumstances, you need to think about, is it fair? Can they back it up with evidence? Have they got an agenda or axe to grind? And that does happen. And it may be somebody who has an axe to grind against your employer. It may be a lobbyist. We do research into alcohol in my department. I work with some leading alcohol researchers. And invariably, a couple of those who are active on social media do come across lobbyists from the alcohol industry and do have to sort of deal with certain comments and pieces that are written counteracting theirs. Is it a personal attack? Again, this can happen where a personal attack may bring in the workplace. And I have seen this in my own department in the past. Very, very rare that these things will happen. And does it deserve a response from your organization? This is a piece of research that we did that was covered in The Sun. And I think this is to kind of give you some example. My background, my first degree is in journalism. So I've got some idea how journalists work. This was a piece of research covered in a newspaper called The Sun. It was in relation to a pilot study that we carried out in Shah, looking at incentives to breastfeed young mothers from poor socioeconomic backgrounds. You can see just below the comment now, it says giving new mums bribes, so there's an important word there, of up to £200 boost breastfeeding rates, a controversial study claims. So controversial is put in there. So this was all covered in the story. We know, so they covered all of the factual positive things about this story, that that we found that offering the incentive boosted rates by a fifth to 37.9% compared to 31.7% around 2 months. We know that research shows that mum's milk boosts her baby's immune system, protecting them against bugs and allergies, including eczema. We know it cuts the risk of obesity and diabetes in later life. And we know that across the United Kingdom, fewer than half of new mothers breastfeed 2 months after their baby is born. Here's the bit where it's controversial. So they have a counter argument by this lady who says, from the Taxpayers Alliance, as a mother who breastfed her children, I don't believe the government should use taxpayers' money to bribe new mothers to make the same decision. So the story, this is a pilot study. It's very rare for a piece of research before it's really been done to be covered in the media, but the media know that this is controversial, and they know that they can put a few words in and get a quote to kind of flip it and cause some kind of controversy around it. So the controversy appeared across local social media. This is the Derbyshire Times, which is next to Yorkshire and was one of the places that was involved in this. And again, lots of comments by people who invariably probably haven't read the research. They've probably not gone as far as finding out all the benefits, the fact it will save money, it will improve children's lives, it will improve the health and the well-being of the mother. So what do you do when you're working with the media and we're dealing with it within a social media context? It's important to try and work in tandem with media and communication professionals. They are allies, but they may not always understand the nuances of the story, and it's important that we get it directed to the right audience. Where possible, write a lay summary. Lay summaries are far more popular now of your work, so it's harder for readers to misunderstand and misquote your work. And invariably what we see with social media is people move on from an outrage very, very quickly. And we see that in US, in UK politics particularly, where someone may say something which is completely fake, but by the time we're trying to get the facts together, everybody has moved on to the next thing. So it's important to try and stop it at the source. So when you work with journalists, ensure they quote you accurately. Ask to see drafts of news stories where possible and remove any inaccuracies and bias. And that's also when you're working with people who may be producing blogs. Try and retain some of the power in that relationship. If you're using Twitter, pin a tweet that is a record of the research story. So that's a tweet that will always stay at the top of your Twitter feed. So those who will come and visit your account as a result of the coverage can read the factual lay summary of the work. So try and have a heading, something that will capture it, the truth about this piece of work, and so on. Don't feel obliged to respond to every comment. As you saw with the past slides, you can suddenly get hundreds of comments. They can run into the dozens, hundreds, even thousands potentially. If any of the comments are potentially damaging or carry any influence, then discuss with your organization. Think about the best way to address that. So monitor your online reputation. As they say, prevention is better than a cure. So think about mentions on social media, keeps you in touch with what's happening, and it helps you identify any potential incidents before they become a problem, especially if your work is receiving increased attention. And it's also very good for capturing the impact of your work. So when people, a common question we see, and again, I think this was touched on in the conference, when you have people who perhaps don't understand the benefits and the importance of social media, to say, can you show me why we're going to invest time in this? This is why you would then start to capture that sort of impact, good and bad. Because remember, you don't have to be working with the media. You don't have to be on social media for your research to start to appear on social media. The actual conversation is quite often taken out of your control. So it's important to do things to try and hold on to that control. Proactively set up search columns for specific words on tools like Hootsuite and TweetDeck can be very helpful as well in terms of looking at a particular topic or an organization. If you have any problems, always important to document it. Take screen grabs of any negative posts on social media so you have a record of them. And people do sometimes delete comments and posts they've made, especially if they subsequently regret them. So keeping an offline record is very, very useful, but also thinking about how long you might keep all of these things, because they can be toxic. If you hold on to things that invariably may come back and bite you, then it's important to think about how long you may keep those. You can also use things like the Save Page Now function on the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine, which is a fantastic way of saving screenshots for future reference. But again, you're putting it out there, you're saving something. You may not wish to do that using that tool. Really, in a nutshell, just be human. Be nice, always be nice and be human. If it's appropriate to apologize, do so with a sincere manner that shows you take complaints seriously, etc. But again, I'm sure lots of you will have these kind of reputation management documents in place, and it's important to have something for when things perhaps do go wrong with social media. And hopefully you won't ever have to refer to it. It's the document you want to write that just gets locked away in a cupboard and never ever looked at again. I think this is a good quote, really. J.W. Stevens, be the person your dog thinks you are. And I think that's the way you need to kind of portray yourself on the web. So making about things more eye-catching. We'll whiz through this, but it's really to get you thinking about things you can do to make your social media content more eye-catching and more visible and more accessible. From an accessibility point of view, which obviously will be important for your audiences, and it's particularly increasingly important now across all spectrums of communications, you need to think about using conflicting color schemes. Where possible, use closed captions to create subtitles for video content. If you're using hashtags, then capitalize hashtags for screen readers. It makes it easier for it to be seen. Notice that the M in media is capitalized. Minimize emoji use, because again, they can confuse screen readers. And if you're doing things on Twitter and blogs where you're using images, try and remember to have alternative text descriptions, which again helps people who may have got some kind of visibility disability. Canva is a great tool. I do suggest you go and look at it. You can get it for free. You are limited what you can do with a free account, but there's quite a lot that you can do with a free account. There are pro accounts which are not excessive. I think we're talking probably around $150 or more for the year, but it's a great tool for creating any kind of visuals that are already set. The big issue I think a lot of people have is, I want to make something for Instagram, I want to make something for Facebook, I just don't know the dimensions for it, and I don't know how to use Photoshop. This will do all this for you. So it has all of the preset sizes, compositions there for you, makes stunning artwork. And I don't want to put anyone in the creative industries out of work, but it does allow you to make some very, very good graphics very easily as well. And there's plenty of tutorials out there. I guarantee if you went away and looked at Canva tonight, not that I'd suggest you do on a Friday evening, but you would master it within probably 30 to 60 minutes and would be making some very, very good graphics. The thing to remember is, with any of these kind of free platforms, you are limited as to what you can do, because obviously they need to make a living. So a lot of the really useful things like exporting is a really big size. If you make yourself a poster and you want to print it out as a big A1 poster or as a big banner, it will pixelate because you're using a free version. So think about that in advance, but it is a great tool to look at. There's loads of these out there that you can use. This is one of the best. So this is one that I've created. I run a series of monthly webinars. These are my webinars in SHAR. And something like that will take 5 minutes to make. I've created the template. I just change and update it. And you can do this in PowerPoint. But the actual thing here is that this is in layers. The microphone is an image which has a blue layer over it, which has been made slightly transparent. It's got grid marks for putting things in line, so everything lines up. So hopefully the D on Doctor, the BA below that, the reader below that, and the at Sheffield are all lined up perfectly. So it makes for a really great way for making these kind of materials, like something like that. If I've got the text, it will take me 5 minutes to then create it, export it as a PNG file for the web. Piktochart is a brilliant tool for making posters and infographics. If you master Canva, you will invariably master Piktochart. Slightly greater learning curve, but again, works the same way. Everything is layers. So the poster there was for an event that I spoke at the British Library. And again, you could make this in PowerPoint if you so wished, but this has got lots of the icons, it's got the images. All of those people there, they're all separate little vectors, which are little graphic images that are monotone. They can all be dragged and dropped. All of the text can be dragged and dropped. The colors can be changed. The blue background can be changed. The kind of the pillars there, they can be changed in terms of color and size. Everything can be expanded and changed accordingly. And you can make some very good infographics as well with this. Limited with the free account, but you'll find that there's enough there to get you going and to make your first posters or infographics or social media content. Video is incredibly important. I use video a lot. I work with colleagues on video. I've been an advocate of video for well over a decade. And videos are a really great way to communicate because you can access them on your mobile. You can access them, you know, pretty much anywhere. They can be very short, but tell a lot of information in a very short time. They're very eye-catching. And they are the predominant format on the web in terms of how much web traffic they take up. If we think about YouTube, we think about Netflix, we think about TikTok, it's all video related. So you can use it for all these kind of things, creating promotional videos, creating short tutorials, communicating your own expertise and research, even conference submissions. I submitted my first ever video abstract to a conference about 8 years ago. So it's not a new thing. And it allows you to reach out to different groups and individuals. Now, of course, certain groups may not have access or be able to use a video. And again, it's important to put things on like subtitles where possible. And YouTube has got better at doing things like closed captioning now. No one size fits all. When we talk about video, people instantly feel that they've got to be on a video, they've got to be on camera, and it makes them incredibly anxious. So there's lots of things you can do. You can screen capture things using your screen. Tools like Screencast-O-Matic, which is about $28 for a 2-year license, or something similar, if I recall. Great screen capture tool, works really well. There's a free version, but you're limited to 15-minute videos, which again is plenty enough for most things. Then there's animation tools, great way to make videos on a variety of topics. And again, you don't have to be in the camera. You don't have to voice it. Someone else can voice it for you if you're uncomfortable about the sound of your own voice, which in all honesty, I think we all are. I am. I hear my own voice back. It sounds fine now, but if I was to hear a video of this back, I wouldn't like the sound of my own voice. And then we've got things like the video camera, more professional, used for more high profile videos, such as promoting your services. That gets a little bit harder if you wanted to make bigger scale videos, and particularly at the moment with things like social distancing and trying to record, and we're going into the winter. It's not like you can easily go outside now and make these videos as you could have done in the summer. But video makes help your content mobile friendly, which I think is a really useful thing. So just to kind of reiterate that. Lumen 5 is a really great tool. It allows you to make very short, punchy videos that are basically little kind of storyboarded videos with text and music. The free account is very good, but it's well worth perhaps paying the $149 for a business package, which will open up more graphics, more images, it makes very, very short, sort of sub 80-second videos. I've just made one today for a conference that some of my colleagues are going to be presenting at. And again, you can make these videos within 20 to 30 minutes. And because they're so short and punchy, around 8 about 8 meg in size, then they easily will upload to things like Twitter. And if you go and have a look at the SHAR Twitter account, or go and look at my account and look at media, you may see some of these videos. But if you go and have a look at the SHAR Sheffield account and then look at media on the Twitter profile, you'll see some of these videos we've made. It's got royalty-free music, but it's got music that's paid as part of the license. So it saves a lot of the problems in terms of attribution, etc. It's all in the package. So this is one that I've created here. This was for one of our health webinars when I started off. This is our first health research webinar series that I started post-lockdown because I wanted some way to get our research out there. This video, I've made a template of it. I just update it for the next webinar, which takes me 10 minutes or so. That one there went out, and on that screenshot, it's got over 1,000 views, which I think is good. I don't think if I'd have tweeted about our webinar series and it was just text, I don't know whether we would have had over 1,000 views of that tweet. We might have done, but this shows us, it gives us some kind of analytics. Adobe Spark, another great tool, works really well on the iPad. I'd love to have more time to show you these actually in depth, to show you how easy they are. And I know some people might be going, no, it might seem easy for you, but it's not for me. But once you understand the principles and the basics, the biggest hurdle is the confidence. It's the confidence in making the video. You will have all got content that you can use to make the video, but it's about having sometimes the confidence to do that. And Adobe Spark works really well. It's an animation platform. If you go to the Shar Vids YouTube page, then you'll see some of the ones that I've made. I've made dozens of these animations. They're about 1 minute to 3 minutes long. And again, they can take 20 to 30 minutes to make in total, if not less. When you're going to make any of these videos like a Lumen 5 or an Adobe Spark, you do need an idea or a reason. So don't go away. Like I say, don't go away today to suddenly think I'm going to shoehorn or try and fit a round peg into a square hole. You need a genuine reason to make it. With animations, when you're not on screen, always have a script and write it line by line by line. Each line will be a different scene in the animation because the animation is made up of different scenes that you can drag and drop and move around. Think about it as like a PowerPoint presentation. Each slide is a different animation that you narrate separately. So the great thing about this is you don't have to talk or wax lyrical for 3-4 minutes perfectly. You do each line at a time. You can't get it wrong. But if you do a script, it will save loads of time. It means that you actually say exactly what you need to say rather than going off tangent. So it's a brilliant way to make concise, communicative videos and animations that are fit for social media. Use a recording device. Adobe Spark works really well on iPad. It really does work very well. And then you may need editing software to make edits or to put your own identification on it, put your own text on it. And then obviously you need to think about a platform, whether it's Vimeo, YouTube, or things like we have iTunes University at Sheffield as well. And then, of course, when you made the video, get out and communicate it. Get out and share it. Don't hide it. When you're making these videos, be relaxed. Don't be uptight. Let your voice be relaxed. Make it a bit. It's something that I need to do more, but I try more and more these days to calm my voice, relax my voice, make the sound a little bit easier to digest. Do it in a room where you're not going to get disturbed. Okay, that's quite important. That you do it where you're increasingly harder when some of us are now working at home and we may have got family members around. Use a room that's got good acoustics. Don't do it when there's perhaps some work taking place outside or there's a lot of traffic, and do it where there may be some good kind of reverberation. The room I'm in at the moment isn't perfect. I'm in a conservatory. It's not the best room, but I've actually got a microphone which makes it easier. Use your own images if you have them. If you've taken your own photographs, your own images, you've got photos from events or from projects, then use those. That saves you having to kind of attribute and search out other images. Try not to go over 5 minutes. 3-4 minutes is a great time. If your video needs to be a minute, it needs to be a minute. That is fine. Don't worry about it. Don't try and put stuff in that isn't of use. And you can be a little bit less formal. Makes it easier for a person to view your content. So you can see some of the Adobe the Adobe Spark videos I've created there. They look quite attractive. These are little kind of taster videos to make people think about different ways of working as part of their research. A lot of these videos are 90 seconds long, and it's really to get people thinking differently. A lot of these videos, from script to production to hosting, took somewhere in the region of 20 to 30 minutes. Because I did the majority of these over the course of a couple of weeks in amongst doing a lot of other work. Once you get into a flow, you really start to kind of make these videos. Also, Adobe Post is a great tool for making nice, attractive posters like Canva. This is one that I've made. Again, you can do this in PowerPoint, but you can see the text is a little bit more striking. The image is striking. It's from Adobe Spark. And again, it just makes for a more attractive poster. All the posters that I've made in the last 10 years, this was an event I ran in my department about 2 years ago. For the last 10 years, pretty much all the posters I've made, I've tried to make them look like a concert, a gig, or a film, I really don't like very heavy text posters. And again, I know it can be very subjective. Some of you watching this may actually find that's not a nice poster, but hopefully it catches the eye, and that's what I want to do. And you can do this obviously when you're sharing on social media. It makes it more kind of eye-catching. If you have funds, if you've got the ability, then I do suggest, if you're making podcasts or videos or screencasts, to have buy a USB mic. I have that one on the side there, the Rode USB mic. It's a great microphone. If you use it with an iPad, the iPad will power it. I don't know if it works with Android tablets. You can then put headphones into it and you can hear your own voice and hear the quality of it going through. It's a great little microphone. There's loads out there. If you are easier using something like a stand, then you can buy these music stands or iPad stands that you can then put in front of you to save you having to hold it. Storyboard anything that you do. So if you're making an infographic, if you're making an animation, well, I say everything, but infographics and animations primarily, storyboard them. Think about what's going to go into it before you start making it. It's very easy to go, I've learned to use this really cool tool. I'm going to rush off and use it now. You need to think about how you're going to use it, because you haven't got the time to start messing around and then finding out you haven't made something at the end of the morning. So it's a great way to maximize your time. When you make video collections, obviously try and think they need to be branded. Put contact details on. These may seem self-explanatory, but it's incredible the amount of videos that go out there that don't have any descriptive text, don't have any text within the video, or don't have any metadata. So think about branding, owning the video, putting contact details on. Think about videos that you may create that are actually going to be too long, and whether you can chunk them up into lots of little easier to digest shorter videos that become part of a collection. So use your descriptions for discoverability. I can't say this enough. Promote things that you make, create your own playlists, and obviously subscribe to other playlists if you don't feel that you can create content. There's obviously lots of great videos on YouTube that you can create as part of your own content. Putting it all together, think about using Creative Commons materials such as images, video, and sounds. Any librarians here who are attending, if you work with any librarians, they'll know about this. They can help you with it. Proper attribution of content and finding resources. Write your scripts. Put time aside to build content collections. Think about the bigger picture. Think about what you want to achieve, who you want to reach, and think about what you realistically, and this is important, can't say this enough, think about what you can realistically achieve in your limited time and resources, particularly as we're in a very, very disruptive working environment right now. So I'm probably about a minute or so early to time. I'm a few minutes earlier to time.
Actually, that's great, because we really do have quite a few questions here that are definitely directed to you as far as clarifying and elaborating on some of these tools. So people really liked your presentation. Thank you very much, because I think they're going to be able to just grab all these tools and start employing them. So toward that, Nina Zuna said, I missed the resource for the poster maker. What was that one called?
Canva, C-A-N-V-A. You can make posters with Pictochart, and you can also make them with Adobe Post. But Canva is just really so low entry. It's great. I guarantee that you'll all wish that you'd heard of that tool 2 weeks ago, because you would all be making Halloween posters and things like that. It's a tool that you can use in a personal perspective really well as well. It's a nice thing to know how to use.
Perfect. And if anyone in our audience, as we talk about these tools, has experience or information to share about how accessible they are to people with disabilities, I know that others online would be interested in that. I personally don't know. Okay, so then what else? There was about Canva, Jean Winook, who was a presenter earlier in the week and is very expert at all these tools as well, noted that if you pay in advance, Canva Pro is just $120 a year in the United States. And what is cool about it is that you create one graphic and it resizes it for all social media platforms. So I can imagine for some of the, you know, multi-channel stuff we've been talking about, that would be very handy. So actually, Jean, since you are a NIDILA grantee, if you know anything about Canva Pro's accessibility, feel free to chime in there. Jess Chaikin, who also is supported by NIDILR, notes that Canva works really well for teams working on projects since it's web-based.
Yeah, you can create folders within the platform, so you can actually, because it puts all of the new content in one big workspace, which can be a bit overwhelming, you can make folders and then get people to put things in their actual folders. So that actually does help. With regards to the resizing, that can be a problem sometimes. So if you create something as a Twitter card, it will resize to say like a Facebook poster, but what it'll do is it'll do the right dimension, but it quite often it will leave the content in the middle. So you sometimes then have to kind of move things around, which is not a big problem. Once you've created a template for that, you can then build off of that as well again. So, but it's important to know as well that sometimes it doesn't put everything in the right place.
Got it. So that's one reason why I think also it helps with anything if people are looking over what you're doing, because you may have missed something, you know, if you're involved in creating it.
And because it's highly graphic and it does a lot of what I'd say is very funky graphics, and same with Piktochart with a lot of backgrounds, it is very easy to make things that probably are not accessible. So I think you do have to think about not trying to create something that is highly impressive and visible to one audience, when in fact it's really hard for someone to access in a different audience.
Or I'm reminded when PowerPoint first came out, and I had, you know, a colleague who just loved to add in every single feature you could, you know, everything was animated, or, you know, so right. You know, there's just that tendency to want to use all those bells and whistles. So as far as any of these tools, or Canva in particular, that's what we're talking about now, do they have tutorials, or is it, I mean, you're describing it as so user-friendly that,
yes,
you know.
They do. On my slide going back, there's a link to tutorials. They do have them. Most of these sites are really good because they want you to get using them, and they want to show how easy it is in their mind. Now, we know for some people there's an anxiety about that, but the tutorials are very good. And the thing about Canva and Piktochart is they work very similar. So once you've learnt out the different toolbars at the top which change, if you click an image, you get a toolbar that reflects that. If you click text, you get a different toolbar. Everything works on layers. So it's based on like Photoshop. So everything kind of layers on top of each other. So it's important to kind of, once you've got that sort of like around your head, you're almost there really.
So would you say those are the two kind of leading industry, like how we have Pepsi and Coke and Burger King and McDonald's or whatever?
I think so. I think they do exactly what you want with relative stress. They've got certain nuances like PowerPoint where you click on something and it's clicked on something else and it can infuriate you, even like Microsoft Word can. But invariably, I think they're as good as can be at the moment. And think the other tools I mentioned, the Adobe Spark and Lumen 5 for creating videos, they work similarly, but they have very different interfaces. So, and what I would say with Lumen 5 is it definitely works best on Chrome. It struggles with Internet Explorer. I don't think it's great on Firefox at times, but it works well on I think it's primarily designed as Chrome. I presume it works well on Safari and other alternative platforms.
What about PC versus Mac? Does that make a difference in any of these tools you've talked about, to your knowledge?
With them being web-based, they'll be fine. Obviously, if people are using things like Linux and stuff, it may be different. But the one thing, as I said, with Adobe Spark, that works very well on an iPad. It works better on an iPad than it does on your computer to some extent, because I think you're a bit more relaxed. You hold the iPad in front of you. You have it at a good distance for your mouth, for what you're saying. So my 7-year-old daughter made one for school and got the headmaster's award of the week, and that's the one that I often showed colleagues to say, my daughter made this. You can make this.
Oh, the kids are always the IT department. And
They are. True.
Margaret LeMay is wondering, what about Visme? Are you familiar with that tool?
So I think, yes, I've heard of Visme. I've got, if I'm right in thinking, that's more of a data visualization tool rather than an infographic tool.
Okay.
There's lots of those out. I mean, Infogram is a very good tool. Info.gram. That's very good if you're creating maps, because that will have got default maps in there. But again, you have to pay more to get the better map. So if you wanted to make a map of the US, like a kind of a heat map, it will have got the states in there. So Infogram is a very, very good tool. That's well worth looking at. And for animations, a really good tool with a slightly steeper learning curve, works similar to Spark and works similar to Lumen 5, is VideoScribe by Sparkle. You can get a week free trial for that. I always say to people, when there's a free trial, start the trial the day when you're going to make the video. Don't start the trial with intention and then panic and lose the trial. But that's a really good tool. But those videos will take longer to make. They're the ones where you have the hand that draws and animates. You don't have to have the hand in. You will narrate it. Again, there's a lot of tools that do this, and I try not to overwhelm people by like 10 choices for one thing, because that's the thing that stops people doing anything.
Sure. Olga Escamilla has noted that she endorses Canvas as well, and that Visme, the free edition, is limited to creating only a certain number of graphics. So all of, whichever particular tool we're talking about, Christine Providenza is wondering, if free versions of these programs are used, can they be disseminated? Are there any rules? And is the vendor branding on the product there if the free version is used?
So with the free version of Lumen 5, you get a watermark ident at the end, which I don't think is a big problem. Paying the $150 for the year will remove that and open up more images. With things like Piktochart, and Canva, you're just limited in export functionality in terms of the size and the quality and what you can do with it, and also the number of graphics. They have a model where if you were to search for, say, doctor, it's just an example, it's not, but they may, all the graphics relating to doctors may be at a premium and you have to pay for that. So there's these various little things, and they're always changing. It's impossible to stay on top. They're always changing their model. So I could never give an accurate answer, but obviously they all need to pay their mortgages and pay their staff. So it's important to kind of think about what you want to make at the end of it, how important it is. And if you've got a bit of money, it's probably invariably paying for that license. Also, you have to remember there's issues with certain things. So if you license a platform as a single individual user and then let everybody in your organization use it, you're breaking the license.
Right.
Which is important. Now, I can't endorse that, I can't condone that, but it's important to know, because it's very easily done for you to start doing things like that. And so it's whether you start thinking, do we need to have a 5-user account license, or so on and so forth. So there may be benefits for that, but it's important to think about those licenses.
Yes, 100%. And we appreciated also prior in your presentation talking about the importance of getting permission for the images and things that are downloaded. And Lauren Smith has shared a blog post that has resources where you can find pictures to use as you create content that they used in another NIDILRR funded project, Healthy Community Living. And I did want to clarify, when Olga was talking about creating a certain number of items on Visme, she meant infographics, not graphics. So let me just see how we're doing here on questions. There was Lauren Smith also shared information about another resource for icons, the nounproject.com. It's a free account. You have to use the attribution, or you can get a paid account and use unattributed images, which you can use in perpetuity without having to worry about it. And she says, kind of take a close look at those disability related icons. Some of them you might find a bit problematic. So I think those are all the questions that we had